Welcome to The Real Game, a podcast by coaches for coaches. I am your host, Matt Philbrick. Welcome to this episode of The Real Game. Before we get into the episode, just a word from my sponsor, Tooth Shower. Tooth Shower wanted to bring to your attention the importance of wearing mouth guards, especially for athletes wearing braces. Studies have shown that mouth guards can effectively prevent dental injuries during collisions with players and equipment. They also reduce the risk of time lost from school, practice, and competitions due to dental injuries. In addition to mouth guards and protecting braces, we would like to introduce to you the Tooth Shower. The Tooth Shower is a shower-powered water flosser that can help athletes with braces maintain better oral health. You can find out more information about the Tooth Shower at toothshower.com. That's toothshower.com. And I can tell you right now, this is a great product. I've been using it now for a couple weeks, from beginning to end, from setup to use. It's a great product. I'm really enjoying it. I'll be speaking more about it as the weeks move on here, but so far, so good. That's Tooth Shower at toothshower.com. Welcome back to this episode of The Real Game. So it's been a few weeks, actually, since I've done a full-length episode. I was out for a knee surgery, so that kind of consumed a little bit of my time, but I'm kind of getting back in the game here, and I'm thrilled to be back on the air today. I have a special guest on with me today, Vickie Denny, who is the head women's volleyball coach at Bob Jones University in Greenville, South Carolina. Welcome to the show, Coach Denny. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to have you on here. I know you are very highly spoken of in the volleyball coaching world, at least the circles that I run in. And I'm going to let you talk about your coaching experience here in a couple of minutes. But I see that you're very accomplished. I will say I have stalked you a little bit on the internet, on the Bruins athletic site, and I see that you just won your 1200th win, your 1200th career win. That's certainly a milestone. And you know what? That ties in very good with the topic that I kind of want to focus on today, and that's longevity and coaching. And so you've obviously been doing this you don't get to 1200 wins without having coached for quite a while, right? So congratulations on that. I'll let you talk about that also in a second as you want to. But just before we start and get into that too much, just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into coaching, and your journey a little bit that's brought you to this point.
Well, yeah, I've been doing this for several years now. And, it started back when I was a kid growing up. In the neighborhood, I was the only girl with a bunch of guys. So I learned to play a lot of different sports, found out I liked it, was pretty good at it. And just from a young age, really enjoyed competition, really enjoyed playing a variety of sports, and that kind of got my path started in that direction. I also loved teaching. So back in the day when I started, there was not very many full-time coaches. So I knew I'd need to find something else to do. Mm-hmm. And I do. So most of my career has been teaching / coaching in small Christian colleges.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've talked to, and myself included, but I've talked to other coaches on here who've had a similar path where, they've had to teach in Christian schools or whatever in order to maybe follow what their real passion is of coaching a certain sport. So it's just great to see someone like yourself who has poured into so many lives. I listened a little bit to the interview that you did after you got your 1200th win. And I want to kind of circle back to this in a couple of minutes, but you mentioned, just feeling blessed about all the lives that you've had a chance to impact and that you've crossed paths with. So it's something I'm proud for you, and I don't even know you, so you should be proud of that. So let's go ahead.
Just go through, the ups and downs of coaching, and especially when you're doing more than just coaching, you're wearing a lot of different hats. I can probably remember 3 times in my coaching career where I was about ready to hang up the whistle, mm-hmm. and God wouldn't do it, and I'm thankful I didn't do it. And yeah, just sticking with it. And I'm, as I look back now, I'm really glad, but I would just say to all coaches, make sure when you step away, it's the right time.
Sure. And coaching is not for the faint of heart. Like it's a lot of hard work, long days, long nights, long years, some seasons maybe that don't go the way that you want, and those are long. But anybody that's stuck with it for that length of time, you must be doing something right. So that's just excellent. You talked about this a little bit a minute ago about what kind of inspired you to become a coach, and maybe even more so, how have your motivations or goals changed over the course of time?
Yeah, I think early on, I loved to be involved in sports. I wanted to stay around sports. I probably didn't really understand the impact sports could have on an individual. Of course, my high school coach, she was a young girl coming right out of college. She had a huge impact on me. Roxy Briss was her name. So I knew there was an impact there because she had an impact on me. But now, as I look back over these many years, just the many, many lives coaches get to touch, get to speak into, get to influence. Sometimes they may not listen to the parents, but, they'll listen to the coach. So
Absolutely.
I think that has changed for my time in coaching, recognizing how powerful the position of a coach is in the lives of young people.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It definitely is. So keeping with that same line of thought, you've had a lot of girls, maybe guys play for you. I don't know, have you coached guys at any point in time?
I did boys volleyball one spring at Clearwater. They were fun. They were fun, but they just weren't supposed to do, so we lost the team.
So you've coached a lot of kids. You've had a lot of assistant coaches, fellow coaches that you've coached against. What impact has that had on your longevity as a coach and just on you as a person?
I think as you develop those relationships, right? When I first started coaching, I was pretty close to the age of my players.
Yeah.
I started coaching college at 25, so I was coaching, kids that were in their, 18 to 22. So, that, and then as I grew in my coaching career, I recognized that many of them have become, lifelong friends. I just had one of my first players ever visit me over the last couple of days, and it's like, who would have thought? Here we are 40 years later, and we're good friends. And so, lifelong friendships through that from former players, and then also, coaches who stay in it for a while. You get to know each other, and you get past that competitiveness that we all have, and you that we really are in it together, and to be able to develop some of those again lifelong friendships with some of the competitors I've coached against has been a real blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. My college basketball coach was Coach Denny Scott. I know you probably know him. He's a great guy, and I consider him to be a friend now, a mentor and a friend, and he's still going strong. So I love to catch up with him once in a while, see what God's doing in his life.
Yeah, he's doing a great job here at Bob Jones for sure.
Excellent. So I'm guessing volleyball has changed or evolved a lot since you started coaching, just the game, the approach, the way the game is played. How do you adapt? How do you keep up with the current trends? And maybe you're a trendsetter. I don't know, but how do you keep up with those changing and evolving, techniques and everything that's going on in the game?
Yeah, I tell the girls that want to get into coaching now, there's a sense where there is so much information out there now. When I first started to coach, there wasn't a whole lot out there. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have podcasts, we didn't have so many resources. So I remember early on, I would travel, 5 to 6 hours to go to a coaching clinic, and there was just a little handful of volleyball coaches there, but just trying to learn the game. And as I've looked back now, as volleyball has evolved. It is, as far as for high schools, just the most high school girls participate in volleyball than any other sport. So it used to be kind of like just what you kind of do. It wasn't like considered a real sport. You just kind of hit the ball back and forth. But now, if you've watched any Division I volleyball, incredible athletes, incredible players through now. And so the game has the type of athlete, as far as their physical abilities and what they're able to accomplish, has just, I think, surpassed what a lot of us ever thought the game would come to. But at the end of the day, you're still, the end of the game, you're trying to get the ball to hit the ground on the other opponent's side.
Yep.
You're still with young people. The thrill of a win, whether it's at a junior high level or at a collegiate level, it's still that thrill of victory. And then if you don't win, that's a tough loss. So I think the resources are just, there's so many more resources out there to learn from and grow from.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my students, be careful. You got to make sure they're good resources, because there's so much out there now to be able to wait through really credible. What should you be paying attention to? Who should you follow? I think that may be the biggest challenge now.
Okay. Is there any specific person you look to in the world of coaching, or just anybody in your life that's had a significant impact on your life that you would say, hey, this person was a mentor to me? Maybe they're not even around anymore, but they influenced you as a coach in your coaching journey. How has that contributed to you sticking with it?
Yeah, probably early on, there was a volleyball coach that coached at Oak Forest Baptist Academy that's not even in existence. His name was Don Casey. Don passed away a few years ago, but Don he played Olympic level volleyball. He played with some of the big names back in the day. Then he became an elementary PE teacher, but he came to know the Lord through the ministry of that Baptist church and started coaching for this really little Christian school. And when I first got out, that's who I played. And I just, his were good. And he could get the girls to do a lot of things. And so for probably year one, I just wanted to learn from Don Casey. And Don was gracious. He was always kind, probably one of the best basic skills coaches I'd ever been around. And to this day, he's one of the best basic skill coaches that I've ever been able to learn under. Don and I became good friends. Solid Christian man. When I went up to Maranatha, I even had him come up and do some camps with us. And as he retired, he continued to coach. He was an assistant coach for Calumet Baptist. I have a girl now that actually played under him, so it's kind of cool come back all the way around. And a few years ago, I got to meet him. Hadn't seen him for maybe 15 years, and saw him at NACAA up in Tennessee, and we reconnected. It was just really neat. And I just got to again thank him for his many years of investment when I was a young coach and knew nothing. Yeah. Then if I think of just a coach in general, basketball coach that was really influential when he was at Clearwater, 25 years at Clearwater, Del Lubinaugh. Del didn't know a whole lot about volleyball, but he knew a lot about coaching, and he knew a lot about mentoring. And I always say Del was the most positive person I've ever been around. The roof could be falling in, and he would find something positive. And so just by watching him those 25 years and how he interacted with his guys, I think rubbed off on me, maybe in ways that I realized until looking back, that much of what I do in coaching came from just watching Del Lubinaugh coach his guys' basketball team.
Okay. Yeah, I know Del, and I had the privilege of hearing him speak multiple times, and just obviously had a passion for basketball, but more of a passion for people and seeing people come to Christ. So definitely I can see how he would have influenced you. Coach, I did send you some questions to look over, but I'm going to deviate from that just a little bit here. And I know you're up for the task. This isn't a hard question, I don't think. I had the opportunity in a previous episode to talk to Coach Hambley, who is the women's coach at Stanford University. And so we talked a little bit about his athletes and the kind of athlete he looks for. Obviously, recruiting is a big thing for him at that level. So he had some pretty good insight on the type of player he's looking for. What kind of girls are you looking for to come play at your program? And is your program one where you kind of just take what's given to you, or do you go out and recruit kids and say, hey, come play volleyball for me? You must know what you're looking for.
Yeah, obviously, we're not a scholarship program, so that right there eliminates some players, because that's all they are at is that scholarship. Yep. Again, regardless of the level, I think it's got to be a good fit. Bob Jones University is a conservative Christian college. We don't apologize for that. Yep. So early on in the conversation, what's your relationship with God? Do you know Jesus Christ as personal Savior? What's that look like? So early on in my recruiting, I really do get opportunities to share the gospel. We have all kinds of kids inquire about us. Some of them have no clue who we are about. So I always I don't try to scare them away, but I try to be very honest with who we are. And really if they would be a good fit, we want them to be happy. We want to be happy. It's got to be a good fit. We always encourage them to make a campus visit. We feel like our university, our facilities are phenomenal. Our academic program, top notch, and we get to play volleyball. So
sure,
kind of the total package. At our university, there's going to be intentional pouring into the young people to grow in their faith. And we don't apologize about that. We have Bible studies. The team, we have Bible studies. We have chapel. So, some young people, that's not what they're looking for. And, that's fine, but we're just not going to recruit someone that at least like when I talk to a recruit that says, well, I think maybe I could do that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the person.
That might be a red flag right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we get kids from public schools that just love the fact that they can be part of a Christian community and they can grow and be encouraged in their faith. So I don't want to shy away from those type of kids, but I do try to be honest with them. Mm-hmm. And again, the campus visit is, I think, the best way. Sit in on a practice, spend the night in the dorm, get to see the students and, what they're all about. I think it helps in the recruiting process.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like you had, I looked through your roster a little bit. It looks like you have some girls there that they're not just there to play volleyball. I mean, they're there to get an education. There's some nursing majors. And so they're looking beyond volleyball to see what God might have for them at the next step of their life. And volleyball is it's something that they obviously get to enjoy along the way.
Right. And again, because we're non-scholarship, I always tell them if I was giving them money, we'd be like in the gym every day. But they're obviously a more of a balanced approach. When we're in season, it's very, very busy. But once we're out of season, they have a little bit more time for social life. Yeah. And just, again, get the total college experience. But yeah, I would say academics is a big piece of why they're at Bob Jones. Obviously, they want to play volleyball. So if they get the chance to play volleyball and get a top-notch education, they're going to look at us in a Christian.
Yeah, definitely. Something as a side note that I noticed from looking through your page a little bit is your husband is your assistant coach. How does that work? And is that, he's probably right there. So be careful. But, how is that relationship?
Well, he walked in the room, so he's not here right now. Here's the story with Coach Lou. Coach and I was a single teacher coach, 42 years old. He lost his first wife. He worked at IBM up in New York, and he retired after he lost his wife and moved to Florida. And I met him at church. And so we started dating, and he knew nothing about volleyball. And he kept thinking he wanted to get married. I kept telling him he didn't wait till to see what my life was really like.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
And 25 years later, he's been helping me. I really attribute to him some of my longevity.
Excellent.
Because like at Clearwater, I was full-time faculty member. I was head of the department along with the coaching. And I'm just not sure how many years I could have kept going. But Lou stepped in. He took over all the administration stuff, all the planning of the travel, transportation, the hotels. He even helps with my recruiting. So it's been great. He kind of already had his career. He was moving to retire, and then God had completely different plans for him. So yeah, he's just coming up his 25th season helping me.
That's fantastic. It's awesome how God brought him to you just at the right time. And we know God's timing is perfect, just at the right time. And I can certainly relate to, I've been coaching only for about 26 years, but my wife has been with me every step of the way and my biggest fan and my biggest critic sometimes. And that's what we need as coaches, but she has definitely encouraged me at times when I felt like quitting. I won't call it quitting, retiring, if you will, from coaching. And her advice has always been, pray about it. Make sure that this is what God wants you to do. Make sure that this is what you want. And sometimes it's good to have that second opinion in your ear. And it sounds like your husband is just that for you.
Oh yeah, he's great. And he can connect to some girls that maybe I can't. I've watched that over the years. He just connects with some of my players in ways that I can't. And that works great. I always tell people that, like my students that want to go into coaching, number one thing you got to make sure is that your spouse is on board, because if your spouse is not, board, it's not going to be a happy marriage. But if your spouse is on board, it's going to be a great partnership.
Yep.
And I've seen that in a lot of. I've seen the pros and I've seen the cons, but to have your wife stick with you so long, that speaks well of her.
Yeah, definitely. Coach Scott, you've probably seen this before, but Coach Scott used to have a little magnet on his fridge that said, "We now interrupt this marriage for basketball season." And that's probably what it is. Probably volleyball is very similar. I'm sure it's just a very busy time. So, time goes by but it's great to have him there by your side where you're doing things together and you're kind of in it together. So
great time. Yeah.
Excellent. Is there any advice you'd give to aspiring coaches? This podcast has some young coaches that listen, some coaches that have been doing it just for a little while. Is there any advice you would give to those aspiring coaches looking to have a long and fulfilling career in whatever sport they want to coach?
I would say try to keep priorities set. We've talked about, God's got to come first. Then you can't neglect your family. There's got to be times where you have to put the coaching aside for family. Mm-hmm. Coaching is important, but it doesn't need to be number one. I think sometimes as coaches, we get consumed and we forget to, have that balance and keep our priorities straight.
Yes.
I think the other thing is probably, I think it's very typical for athletes. And I think as coaches, if we're not careful to find our identity in our sport, and especially as a coach, your win-loss record and, if you're having a good season, you're a great coach, but if you're not, you're the worst coach ever.
Sure. Yeah.
I for all of us to recognize that, our identity is in Christ, our worth is in him, and not, it's a great career, but you've got to keep, I think, the right perspective, or you're just not going to enjoy it. You're going to endure it. And so I think that would be a couple.
Yeah, no, those are great. That's some great advice on your part. And certainly if you're a young coach out there and listening, take those words to heart from somebody who knows what they're talking about, who's been down that road, who has tons of experience. So thanks for those words of wisdom, Coach. As we're wrapping things up here on the way out, is there any story you might want to share from your coaching experience that just boom, man, if somebody says highlight of your coaching career that just pops to the forefront, what would it be?
And you ask a coach that, you got all kinds of stories, right? I think it would be over a year period. We were hosting nationals at Clearwater, the NCCAA nationals, and we had a team we won it in 95, 96, and 97. In 97, we won it in a 5-gamer against Moody. We won 18-16. That was probably one of the highlights of my coaching career. It was just one of those that were back and forth, and then we were down, we came back, and it's in front of our home crowd. And again, my players, this was 3 in a row, and that was one of the top thrills of my coaching career. Yeah. Fast forward now, a year later, we're hosting again. We're in the championship game. It's not against Moody, it's against Lincoln Christian University. And we lost 17-15.
Oh, no. Wow. Sounds like kind of a repeat, but on the opposite end of that.
Exactly. And those seniors had never lost at nationals. Yep. All they knew was winning nationals. And so, I think for the contrast from, the thrill of victory, winning it the year before in front of the home crowd, yep, to we lost. We were all just what do we, it was just shock. Sure. But it brought everything into perspective for me, right? Because there's going to be some times where you win and you aren't supposed to win and you win anyway. Mm-hmm. And then there's been times maybe you have a better team and you don't. And so I think I always use that with coaches to recognize you're going to have those highs and you're going to have those lows. And don't base your life in either one of those. Yeah. So I always use that's because it was such a contrast. Everything was so much the same, and yet it was so different. The feelings at the end of the match was so different.
The thrill of victory to the agony of defeat in a year, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your insight on I know I peppered you with a bunch of different questions here and we went all over the place, but I appreciate your being on here, and I appreciate the investment that you're continuing to make in the lives of young people. I know that doesn't go unnoticed, and there certainly will be eternal rewards for those, as well as the rewards that you're enjoying now here on Earth. So thanks, Coach, for pouring into them. Thanks for doing what you're doing. And who knows, maybe we can have you on here some other time. But I definitely am when I'm on campus. I'm going to look you up, and so you can put a face to the voice here sometime.
Yes, please do.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Have a great day.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Real Game. I thought this quote by Tony Dungy was appropriate after this episode, and the quote is this: balance provides the chance for longevity. You can be a champion at work and at home. So good luck, coaches, and coach on.